Hi guys, welcome to Grow Up. Today we have on the owner of Kitson in LA. If you've ever been in LA, you know Kitson. It is a staple in the LA scene. It was made famous long ago by all of its celebrity clientele. So we've got Fraser Ross on with us. He's the owner of Kitson. And I have to say, my experience, we lived in LA. We moved to Tennessee, a while ago. But owning a production company there, working with celebrities and stuff, I always knew Kitson and had been there a bunch of times. I had never seen anything politically charged in any way previously to this. So everything that's happened, that I've seen over the last year is very surprising to me. And I think it speaks to a larger thing that's happening throughout America right now. First thing I wanted to say is, so for our audience who doesn't know, what this guy has been through and what Kitson has been through is insane. They've been through looting, through riots, basically a blackmail plot to try to get them to donate $10,000 to BLM, and assault too. So I want to start with the most recent thing, the assault. Can you walk our viewers through what happened to you and why it happened?
And welcome to our show, by the way, Fraser.
Yes, and welcome.
For having me. I mean, it happened last Monday. A young lady came in, and we noticed she's shoving clothes in her big tote bag. So obviously she's a shoplifter, and she kind of was the description of the girl, but I wasn't sure, that was down the street a week prior, taking $3,000 allegedly around $3,000 worth of merchandise out of a high-end boutique down the street. So I got a little wary of what was going to happen. And then we confronted her and asked her for the merchandise back. She was taking wads of clothing in her hand. And we said, due to COVID, you need to put it in a basket. And she didn't want to do that. And I said, well, that's the rules of the store. And, you can't just bundle it together in your arm. And then, at the time, I just, took the clothing out of her bag and said, we'll take this back. Thank you. And you need to leave. And she left. And, I always say, if you get a shoplifter, get their license plate. That'll catch them quicker than anything, any camera on your system. Yeah. And, I went out, but there was no license plate on the car. It was a kind of new BMW, no license plate, tinted windows. So obviously, she's around the neighborhood trying to, do havoc to the small stores in the neighborhood. Then she came back 10 minutes later, just walked. I said, you have to leave. The staff were scared. You have to leave. And then she took the pepper spray out and pepper sprayed me in the eye.
Have they found her yet?
No, they haven't found her yet. And I don't know why they haven't. I mean, the police are so busy guarding Garcetti's house. So maybe they're too busy looking for 20, 30 officers at Garcetti's house, worrying about him more than they're worrying about the small businesses in this town. Yeah. I mean, that was the key during the looting. I mean, one of our stores got looted, and, I didn't see Garcetti, going afterwards and looking at the damage that was caused in LA and coming to small businesses, are you okay? A lot of them lost their business because they didn't have insurance during that because of the lockdown. They got rid of their insurance because they didn't think they'd need it because of liability. No one's coming through the door. So, that was an issue. We had insurance, so we got our insurance money back 5 months later, but it's not so easy dealing with insurance companies, and they had a lot of cases like that. So, it's just,
Of course, Garcetti was in there. I mean, he's never been there. Even the time when the whole time we lived in LA, he never stood up and recognized the problems that were just bubbling. They were beyond bubbling up. They were overflowing throughout LA, and have been the entire time he's in there. And he ignores it all. I mean, he's been a tool for the radical left. You look at shoplifting in itself. I mean, how hard is it to even get shoplifting prosecuted at this point from a small business?
Well, you can't. I mean, you just have to make sure that it doesn't happen, and you have to get the merchandise back, and we have cameras and everything, and you have to be alert. I mean, it's just rampant. And, Garcetti only cares about his next job and who's padding his pockets. So that's why on the window, I have him holding cash, because that picture I saved for 6 years and say, I'm going to use this picture one day. It's not on the internet anymore. And it is what it is. But, I've had big problems with Eric Garcetti about the airport, overcharging $5 for a liter of water when we had a store at the airport. It's not, there's street pricing. He looks for his next job. And I think his next job is going to be party planning for the inauguration. I don't think he'll get a position, in Washington, but he's now in charge of the inauguration. So I guess his next job is a party planner.
Insanity. It's the craziest part is you can defund. He signed off on the defunding of police in LA, over $100 million taken away, and then he has the officers protecting him at his house. You want to take the next?
Yeah, total hypocrisy. What has been the biggest factor, I think, affecting your business? Has it been the looting, the rioting? Has there been liberal boycotting of your store, harassment? What has affected your business the most?
Well, listen, I tell everyone I'm a Canadian, so I can't vote. Okay. So really, I'm the right person to speak out on this. These people on the window affected my business, the small businesses in LA. So everyone was reaching out to me. It's not really a Democrat Republican window. Unfortunately, the people that are affecting my business, Gavin Newsom, Eric Garcetti, it's a problem. And this, celebrities, Alyssa Milano defund the police and calls the police, and Chrissy Teigen bails looters and rioters out of jail, more or less. I mean, she doesn't care. She's lived in her gated community, or her gated house or whatever she lives in.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, so, you touched on this in your store window, you have posters that go after Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Chrissy Teigen, Alyssa Milano, Eric Garcetti, Hunter Biden, and Anthony Fauci. In LA, that's already a shocking thing to do. But when you own a business that, and I experienced this myself coming out of somebody who worked with celebrities, with a store that works with celebrities, what has the reaction been to those posters?
I mean, it's really been overwhelming. I mean, I didn't go out trying to get press. We do windows like this all the time. I mean, 3 years ago, we did a window calling out Eric Garcetti, who's getting coal in his stocking this year because he looked a blind eye to the water prices at the airport. We had the editor of the Hollywood Reporter, Janice Min. She used the paper for her personal agenda. We had texts from writers at the paper saying she was told to go. They were told to go around town, getting gift certificates from establishments. So it's the editors and the people in power that use their power in the wrong way, and they eventually get caught.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, usually when a business comes out in support of freedom, it is a polarizing issue. Has there been, any overwhelming support from more conservative-minded people or patriots, freedom-loving people, or is it kind of a mix there?
It's been overwhelming support. I mean, obviously you're going to get a few trolls online with 0 followers and wanting to say something, but it's been overwhelming because Democrats own businesses too. They're sick of it. They're losing their business. They're losing their lifestyle, which they've worked hard for all their life. So it's been overwhelming. I mean, Donald Trump Jr. obviously posted the window on his Instagram and got like 1.2 million views. So, and it just went from there. I mean, there was a lot of people we were on Italian TV news, we were on Japanese news. I think people are just saying, enough is enough. And this recall Gavin Newsom thing that I'm kind of spearheading, that people, I've got the signature in the store, I had the truck there. I think it's time. Once he went to the French Laundry restaurant, said he sat outside, and the picture came the next day that he was inside, I think that was the end of his career. There's no need to keep him, because you can't trust anything he says.
I think he's gone no matter what. And even if it's not the recall, it'll be his next election. He'll be gone. It's probably the best opportunity Republicans have to take that over. Now, if you look at this, I'd say the craziest thing that I've heard over the last year about your story is that you were essentially blackmailed into giving $10,000 to BLM. Can you walk our viewers through what happened exactly and how this all happened and who's responsible and did they still have that money? All that.
Well, when our store got looted, I saw that post that she put on her Instagram, Chrissy Teigen. Someone said, I'm going to help the protesters get out of jail for $100,000, which was noble. And I said, that's okay. But then someone tweeted her back and said, what about the rioters and criminals? And she said, well, let me up it to 200,000. The problem is when you have 30 million followers, you can start a movement and everyone's going to think it's okay. Jennifer Garner gives her 3 hearts. A lot of these celebrities think it's okay because, they're protected in their homes. But these small businesses are the ones that are generating tax revenue to help the fire department get the roads clean, the garbage pickup. I don't think they realize in the city they live in, the backdrop that they've gained their career over was getting damaged and hurt. So I put on the Instagram, their egos are so big that, I said, listen, Chrissy, we need to talk, because I carried her cookbook, from Random House. We carry a lot of cookbooks in the store at Christmas and all, I think it was the prior year, her cookbook. And then and we tagged her best friend, Jen Atkins. She owns Way, or is the founder of Way, OUAI shampoo. And she went and commented, we'll use the shampoo that we sell by her to pick up the graffiti, wipe off the graffiti. And then one of the people commented and said, that's disgusting. And she says, oh, but my looting cream is coming out in October. Yeah, no. So Chrissy, was in on it, and we took the post down and we've saved everything in the archives. They were mocking the store, Chrissy. I mean, it's unbelievable that she still has a job in Hollywood. And I just saw that Chex-Mex put her and John Legend on the cover. General Mills. I mean, all the stores that were looted, they really need to put Chrissy Teigen and John Legend on the cover of Chex-Mex. They could get any celebrity for that. So shame on these big public companies that are using these celebrities that didn't care about small business. And I saw no celebrity after the looting come and help clean up the glass, the businesses that were burnt down. Nothing. They stayed silent. It's really insulting to their fans.
It is insulting. It's honestly, it's beyond insulting, because not only did they not go to help small business owners, they actually encouraged the looting and rioting. I saw it constantly, even from people that I used to work with. And I said it. I said, this is wrong. I don't know what the hell you guys are thinking, but you're funding people who are literally assaulting people. I know somebody really close to us who was beat over the head with a skateboard when they were just walking down the street. They're not a political. They weren't doing anything. They were just walking out of their office and got beat over the head with a skateboard and went to the ICU. These are normal people that are hardworking people that are bearing the brunt of this, and they encouraged it. And not one of them said sorry for it. If anything, they've gone further with it as this has gone on, and they've left small business owners holding the bag. I think, like I said at the beginning of this, there's a shift happening in America. The way we used to think about politics is changing a lot. And I think that, at least for me, it used to be that Republicans were more surefire to protect big business, and the reverse, has kind of come true at this point. Now we see a lot of corporate interest being protected by people like Gavin Newsom, like, say, giving liability protection to all of the big energy companies in California for wildfires and things like that, while also then shutting down the electricity on small businesses. You got to pick a lane. Doing both of those things is nonsensical. So you see these things happening. It's sort of resulted in a shift politically across America. And a lot of people that used to maybe be classical liberals are sort of sliding over and saying, you know what, this is in my best interest as a small business owner, because this other group of people is essentially just, pissing on my business at every other turn. I don't really have a choice. They're not giving me a choice. And I think that's an interesting sort of thing that I've seen from business owners, some of whom voted Democrat for a very long time. So what do you think the future of small business in America looks like?
Well, I think small business has to start standing up. I was very, an advocate to get the city back open. I wrote a scathing letter. I put it on my Instagram to Eric Garcetti, and I said, "You're telling me you can go to Target and buy a greeting card, but the small card shops are closed down. You can go to Walmart and buy a toy, but the toy shops are shut down." I said, "It's called restriction of trade, okay? And the media is not talking about it. You're restricting trade to some people and not others." So I said, I sell everything. I said, soup to nuts, cradle to grave, where we sell cards, toys, we have a kids store, clothing. We sold every commodity that these big boxes sold, but maybe at a different price point. So we sell a $95 pool float, and the Walmart sells a $20 pool float. He allowed this, and I'm sure they paid into some campaign or something to allow this to be opened up, these big boxes. And it's very interesting. Did these big boxes know what was going to happen? Because their shelves were not low. They were stocked at all times. And it's not so easy to get this product in from China. So I think they were well aware what was coming down the pipeline. They were given advance notice, and all of a sudden their shelves were never empty.
Yep.
So
it's the largest transfer of wealth in modern times from small business to big business, and it's all by force of government, which is something that is hard to describe as anything but a certain form of communist dictatorship. I mean, that's essentially what they do. They take over businesses, they transfer wealth. They're just doing it in a corporatist way in this sense, but they're taking from hardworking people which is many people, and they're giving to a few large businesses. And I think you're absolutely right that this goes back to who's giving the right amount of money to the right people. And those people are rewarding them with all of the money that should rightfully be going to small businesses in a normal business climate. Have you talked to other small business owners about how you guys can band together and not comply with certain things? Because I know I just spoke to a group of business owners here in Nashville who have just had enough, and they've said we're not going to comply with the Democrat mayor here in Nashville. We're just not going to comply anymore.
Well, I mean, no one's taking them serious. That's the problem. They flip-flop what they're going to do, what they're not going to do. You know, it's a problem that, you know, Garcetti or Newsom should be going to the touring a lot of small restaurants, because he's the one that, you know, got these restaurants more or less closed, and see what the hardship they have to do every day to just do takeout. And Garcetti should go some of these small stores and see, look what you've taken away from me. He had no right to put a shutdown and keep the big boxes open. It didn't happen in Europe. They shut off the non-essential areas in Europe, in these places that sell food and non-essential areas. So I think I've been getting a lot of direct messages from stores. You know, maybe they're, you know, want to be as vocal as I am, but I've been doing this for 20 years. And, you know, I've seen the celebrities need LA because that's their backdrop. I try to relate it to, you know, Sex and the City had 4 girls and New York City was the 5th girl. So whatever celebrity they have, LA is their partner, because Hollywood is La La Land and it's seen around the world. So you need somewhere to sell your product. If you come out with a cookbook or a clothing line or a candle, these celebrities need somewhere to sell it. They're not going to sell it to the big boxes. They're going to get lost in the floor space. But small stores can promote it much better. And I don't think they realize how important these small businesses are to them.
Yeah, I don't think they realize that either.
Yeah,
really
and what
don't.
you're seeing too is a mass migration too, including celebrities, of people that are fleeing these tyrannical places like California, and then embedding themselves in more red states, red areas, and then continuing to perpetuate the same cycle, vote for the same types of people that are trying to enact the same measures as we're seeing. We live in a conservative area, and they're trying to you know, do unconstitutional mandates, things like that, to make it harder for people to do business and live life normally, return to schools, everything like that. So in your experience dealing with celebrities and just LA culture, do you think that there's a lack of awareness of what's going on, you know, is policy related, or is there, you know, are they conscious of it and they just don't care and they're self-serving?
Well, I think they're doing what their gatekeepers are telling them to do. So they don't really have a voice. They'll do whatever their gatekeepers are telling them what to do. These gatekeepers get 20%, 25. You know, half their salary goes to the gatekeepers. So they're telling them what to do because they need the gatekeepers to get them, you know, their next job. You know, listen, Kim Kardashian used to live behind the store. Okay, she would beg to come to every event of ours, you know, early 2002, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And I reached out to her and I said, you know, you're worried about prison reform, but you're not worried about the businesses that are dying in LA. You're doing nothing to say support small business unless you're paid on your Instagram. So these celebrities, all they want is followers on their Instagram, whatever it takes to get those followers, because very few people disfollow you, so they can get people to give them a product placement on their Instagram.
Yeah.
And that comes to a very important point that the government should be looking into it. These Instagram stories, when they post on Instagram, they post ads. But when they do on stories, Kris Jenner, Chrissy Teigen, they don't say ad. It's illegal to do that. So the stories need to be accountable for this. It's actually criminal time if you keep taking money and not telling people that this is an ad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. It's a way they're evading it, and they're doing it because they think it's cute because it only goes 24 hours or whatever it is, and then it disappears. Right. So they think, you know, since it's not going to be there forever, it's not as big of a deal not to do that. But you're absolutely right. It violates the same laws if you didn't do it on every other post. It's something that I've actually brought up before. It's a sneaky way they think they're getting around it, but I think eventually that has to stop. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, if somebody came to you with your experience in business, especially with a successful store in LA for over 20 years, saying, I want to open up a business in LA, what would you tell them today?
Well, I mean, we've come to a new world. We don't know if we're going to have a pandemic 2 years from now. We don't know how we're going to deal with it. I mean, I would never sign long leases today. I would make sure the landlord's in partnership with you, and be very careful of opening one. Do it as a short-term deal as possible. You can't do anything long-term today because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. And some people aren't aware of the additional risk, all the red tape with the bureaucracy that happens, all the policies, the thing that hit your business hard with the 1099s.
Yeah.
So I think it's a huge risk and that some people might not be aware of. So if anybody's watching and thinking about that, I think it is a big risk to open up in a city with this kind of, lack of leadership.
So
absolutely.
I have two questions left. One is on the BLM blackmail
Yes.
thing. What has happened there?
Well, so a blogger, I'll say she's out of state. She knows Teigen, came on and started doing racist posts about Kitsons being racist. They care about their business, not people dying. And I would say David Doran to them. I mean, a lot of people died. I looked online, about 20 people died during the rioting, looting during that time of in June, police officers or whatever it may be. So they said, you better donate $10,000. I have it in the text. And then if you don't, we're going to put another post up saying that you're racist. I said, okay. So you know what? During that time, we got looted one store. Was the next store going to get looted? What was going to happen? So I donated the $10,000 more or less out of fear because I have to protect my staff, and the business. So I knew there would be a time where I could expose this when things settled down. And then they settled down, and I put it on my Instagram, and I reached out to Black Lives Matter. My accountant did first, and they said, well, I don't know if we can give it back. It's been 4 months. Then I emailed them and I said, listen, I was blackmailed into donate this. It's 8 o'clock at night. The next morning when I woke up, I'm not sure where they're based. They said the money will be back in your account in 24 hours. And I said, well, don't you want to know the story? Who blackmailed me? Why they blackmailed me? Now, a lot of people had BLM on their byline. I mean, the Way CEO, they're on their Instagram. So were they getting a percentage of sales for the money they brought in for Act Blue? So, was Act Blue really doing ads for Joe Biden with the money? And I know a lot of people that were blackmailed into donating money, and they were scared to speak out. And I said, enough is enough. And I got an investigation going on this. And I think this is really the story that needs to be told in this country. How many people were blackmailed in fear because they saw what they were doing in the country at the end of May and end of June?
Yeah,
it was
I would
unbelievable.
like to know that too. I would like to know how many business owners were blackmailed into donating money. I'd also like to see how much money in total did BLM collect during that time period, and where are the financials? Where's that money going? Because I don't see BLM in any Black communities going out to help people. I don't see them doing any of that stuff. I know a great gay conservative guy, Scott Pressler, who goes into, these predominantly minority-based communities and cleans them up. I haven't seen BLM do that. I've seen food drives and all types of things from churches, but I haven't seen BLM do that. So I'm curious where all of this money has gone, as well as how many people were blackmailed. I think that's a story that's going to keep going, and I would love, when you get more clarity on what happens with that investigation, to bring you back. My final question to you is, if you had 3 minutes to talk to all of these Democratic leaders and these celebrities who were really encouraging the rioting, the looting, and now what has turned out to be an assault against you, what would you tell them right now? What would you tell them about the past year, the lockdowns, everything? What would be your 3 minutes with them?
Well, I mean, I'm really directing it probably to just, Newsom and Garcetti. They're clueless of what people have to do to stay afloat today. It's a hardship for so many people. So many restaurants have lost, have closed because of them. I would tell them, you need to come and see what people have to do on a daily basis to survive. You get bullied by the landlords for rent. The landlords owe the banks. No CEO of the banks has gone on record saying, we're going to get a bailout for the government so we can help our people that have loans against us so they can pass it down to the tenants. They're not doing anything. The bailout for these small businesses doesn't exist. They just don't care. But, the long run is, their next job will not come about. They realize that people, no matter if you're Democrat, Republican, I do think Major Williams could be a great candidate for the governor of California. They have to realize people are waking up now, and it's not a Democrat Republican issue. It's an issue of existence that people are really trying to do, and we don't know what 2021 is going to bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we just saw this week that Fauci saying, and Bill Gates said, this could last well into 2022 and no normalcy into late 2022. So, every day it seems to get crazier, and the things that they seem to add on to this seem to get more insane. So, I thank you for standing up to the lunacy and not cowering to all of these politicians and people, because I know in LA, in a lot of ways, it would be easier to cower to them, and you haven't done that, and you've stood strong. And so I commend you for that. And more small business owners need to do that. Stand up for your rights, stand up for your businesses, because if we don't, we're not going to have them.
We're not going to have them in California. They'll be going to Florida, Texas, and other states.
Yeah.
But, I got a lot of, of all the people in the window, people didn't like Fauci on the window. And my thing with Fauci is, I traveled 4 times across the country between December 15th and February 15th. And he says, don't wear masks in March. He knew that everyone in China was not wearing a mask. He was over and or sometime in 2019. So he wanted people to get sick, I feel. I mean, if we did on it.
Oh, you're breaking up. We're losing you.
I think we're losing.
Are we on still?
I was going to say the Fauci poster at his business.
Okay.
Was my favorites, because there's a lot of hypocrisy in what Fauci said at the very beginning, saying no masks, nobody needs masks, especially during an outbreak. That's what he said. During an outbreak, a mask isn't going to help you. And then flipping that to later and basically saying, oh, well, I lied because, the emergency people needed it. Well, if you were lying, first of all, I mean, that shows us your character right there. But secondly, you could have told people back then to use a cloth, use something that they already had, if you really thought there was a lot of efficacy to mask use. And he didn't do that. He said, you don't need it, and then changed his tune later on. So it was one of my favorite posters on yours.
Well, the thing with Fauci is I don't like him he can reprimand Donald Trump and his people in his office, but when Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom weren't wearing them, he should have said something. These people in power it's not acceptable for them to do it. He should have reprimanded them. He didn't. He just wants to stay in office because now he's a celebrity. He's on the cover of People magazine. I don't know how many issues that sold, probably less than 600,000, but 100 million people apparently saw that window that I made up of People Time magazine. And he's going to a baseball game not wearing a mask. He actually did a disservice, and he's more worried about Brad Pitt playing him in a movie and being on the cover of People. That's really what he's more worried about. He's 80 years old. I understand he wants to go out in a swan song, but I don't know if it's going to be so much so.
Yeah. He's particularly disgusted me because he seems more interested in being a celebrity than actually doing public health a service. So,
correct.
Well, I thank you so much for being on with us. We're going to stay following your story, and would definitely love to hear any updates on what happens with that with the investigation.
Thank you. And, we have the form to recall Gavin Newsom in the store. We're getting like 4 pages a day. Please come to the store. It's happening. He's out.
Awesome.
I heard
is
that
there,
some
is
people.
there a website for that?
No, you have to do it in person.
Okay. What about Kitson store? How can people support the store online?
Yeah, we have kitsonlosangeles.com, and we're overwhelmed right now with orders. So it's
awesome.
The support has been unbelievable, and it's been support from Democrats. I'm not lying. A lot of Democrats have come in the store that live in this town are thanking me. So it just shows
they're
you
over it too.
They're over it too.
Yeah. Hopefully they realize that they can't keep electing people like that. But
right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and
thank
we'll
you.
reconnect with you soon.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.